All right, and we welcome you back. It's now time to crown a Division III state champion. We welcome you to our OHSAA State Tip-Off pregame show. I'm Justin Kidder, Michelle Mimna up here with us, and of course you have the coach, George Howard. And we are off and rolling. We just crowned a state champion, of course, and feels good to have one champion already on the books.
Yeah, it does feel good, and you know, it's a good way to start the morning. Kind of went how I thought it was going to go, but you know, I want to pass this over to my partner because she was able to get a little bit more insight to Berlin Highland. But I did talk to their coach this morning, as we spoke of earlier, and he just said what his team had to do. But I actually thought from when I sat there and looked at them before the game started, I could see the intimidation in their eyes. When they came out, they scored first. And I said, well, okay, now we might have something. But it went a total different direction after that. What do you think about Berlin Highland?
Well, you know, we spoke earlier too. They lost some key players during the season. So getting here, as Coach Slayball said, what a fantastic accomplishment for this team, having lost some key players. Having said that, that semifinal win was just such an accomplishment for them, and Coach Slayball knew what they were running up against, literally running into kind of a brick wall with Richmond Heights. And, you know, it's not that talent's not there for Berlin Highland. It is that the fact that every player on Richmond Heights' team is going to be playing at the next level, and they all just showed up today. So defensively, Richmond Heights is absolutely stellar. Berlin Highland had a really tough time crossing half court and getting into their half court offense. And when they did, they shot only 28%. So that was part of the problem. Now, when we talk about Richmond Heights, wow, Coach, they are something else to watch.
Yeah, and as we spoke this morning, as I told you and Kurt thought maybe they might come out with a hangover from the other day. And the first thing I said was, no, that's
you
not
don't know
happen.
them very well.
Yeah, that's not going to happen with them because, first of all, Q keeps them prepared.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have to with those guys.
Yeah.
That's just the way they play. It's just the way they play. They come out, they're going to come at you.
Yeah.
And if you're not coming back at them, or they feel a little intimidation from you, or that you're scared a little
like
bit.
blood in the water.
Oh, they seek it out, and that's what they did today. And it kind of went the way I thought it would, to be honest with you. But the scary thing.
How many do they bring back?
Everybody.
Everybody.
so they lose one person, but they're going to be right back here again next year. It's just the way it is. And they slide them down to Division VI. So they're going from 4 to 6.
Yeah.
They'll be back. We'll be sitting here talking about them next year.
Well, and Coach said this is the most versatile, complete team that he's had. And he said right before halftime, he said, I don't like what we're doing right now. We'll fix that in the locker room. I'm like, I don't want to be anywhere near that locker room because he is one of the most intense people. He cracked a smile at the end of the game, and I was happy to see it. But those practices are probably some of the most intense sessions.
Can I say this before you take? I'll tell you one thing about Richmond. They start a conditioning program early, and when I talk about the conditioning program, they run hills and stairs early. He makes sure that they're in tip-top shape, and they're used to it, though. In their practices, they run. And when they get out here on the court, that's what they do.
Well, I mean, I walked some stairs today. I had to walk down the stairs to get to the court.
But you didn't
I
run
came back up. I was a little winded, but, you know, I don't think it's the same thing. But, again, congratulations again. 62-35, the final. Richmond Heights wins another Division IV state championship.
Third in a row.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
three-peat.
And we previewed that. We talked about what to expect kind of heading into that game, and it's kind of what we thought, too. And, again, you know, you look behind us, too, and there was the Dieblers in town. You had Jake Diebler, Ohio State head coach. He was back there. I saw you had a chance to catch up with him, and they had a big NIT win last night, and he's back out on the recruiting trail, of course. Dorian, a big name. There's a lot of good names on that roster, but Dorian, I'm sure, a name that they're keeping an eye on. Just you had a chance to catch up with Jake Diebler here in attendance watching them. What was that like?
Yeah, Jake and John, his brother, was standing there with him. They both played for me and played in our program. I've been knowing them for a very, very long time. I know the whole family. And I talk to Jake often, very often. And I was so happy that he got the job because he is the right man for the job. When you talk about ties in the state of Ohio, he has all the ties. When you talk about the players that he's recruiting and that they've offered, he's the one recruiting them. And what I was down there teasing him about was, I said, hey, you know, you coming in here with John, y'all know what that's telling everybody, right? It's about to happen. So I don't want y'all to be surprised when you hear the news that Ohio State has brought in John Diebler, because I just stood there and told them both, who I love very much, I said, listen, what a great team y'all would make, you know, to come in here and build a program together, the Diebler family. I said, but also, if you don't build the program together, you know what's going to happen, right? So, you know, I have that relationship with them, though. But, you know, I think that would be a great move. What do you think about that?
Well, you know, I went right up to both of them, whom I've never met, and I introduced myself, and I said, congratulations, best of luck with what you're doing. I hope that you're there for 20 years doing great things at Ohio State. You know, my perception of both of them is class act from top to bottom. You know, just love, you know, as a player, you know, as a coach now, and maybe bringing in his brother. But those young men play for him. They, from the minute that change was made, they have played like a completely different team, and that tells me all that I need to know.
Well, since he took over, they're 8-2.
Exactly.
They're 8-2 since he took over.
Speaks for the record. Speaks for itself.
Had they beat Illinois, which they were right there,
they would be in the NCAA tournament.
They would have made the tournament.
Yep.
No, and the Diebler family, and again, we touched on that family a little bit yesterday, but seeing them here at the University of Dayton Arena today generated a lot of buzz, and there was a line of people there to meet them and do what you talked about, going up and congratulating them.
Yeah.
I met Jake for the first time today. John I've known for a few years when he was playing with Carmen's crew, the TBT team. Of course, our high school teams crossed paths many moons ago, but, you know, seeing him at the arena for the TBT for years, but now an assistant at Butler, you know, how come Butler, you know, maybe Butler was here recruiting. How come you ain't saying that? How come it's, the future is
because I know.
Yes, no doubt. But
inside information.
It's just a great way to tip off Championship Sunday here at the University of Dayton Arena. Again, congratulations, Richmond Heights. The final 62-35, Richmond Heights over Berlin Highland. Richmond Heights, your Division IV state champions. So now we get to turn our attention to Division III, and I just want to say thank you, Michelle, for taking time. It's day 3 for a lot of us. Everyone's been putting in a ton of time, a ton of effort and work, and you did a great job working the sidelines for that one. You'll be back in action later on tonight.
I will. Division I.
That's going to be a good one, too.
It's going to be a good one.
Absolutely. Michelle, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
All right, and we are back here at the University of Dayton Arena. We just crowned a Division IV champion. Want to give a shout-out again to Richmond Heights. But we're right back at it. Coach Howard, Justin Kinner with you here, and bringing on our next guest as we get set to preview Lutheran East and Harvest Prep in Division III state title action. We have Michael Roth hanging out with us. And, Michael, we appreciate you giving us some time ahead of this big Division III championship matchup, of course. Tell everyone a little bit about yourself, which outlet you're with, and a little bit of the work that you do behind the scenes.
Yeah, so I write for Prep Hoops Ohio, which is a website that covers high school and prep basketball all across the state of Ohio. Also, am a co-host of the Drive to Dayton podcast. We've been covering high school basketball across the state of Ohio for the whole year, talking about teams just like Lutheran East and Harvest Prep that we're going to see compete for a state title in just about 30 minutes.
Hey, Mike is the man, as most people know, and I remember when they kind of first started, but Mike has really worked his way up to respectability because they do such a great job at Prep Hoops and what they give people to look at every day. And I know, throughout the years that, I probably have got on Mike's nerves sometime, but You know, he does such a great job, and I respect what they do, and I love what Mike does. He's right there, right there.
Well, again, we appreciate you coming up. And we got a big one here, Division III action, and two teams who have had a fun path to get to this point. And we'll start with Harvest Prep because, of course, they had one of the more anticipated matchups this weekend in the semifinals with their showdown with Ottawa Glandorf, of course. You had Mr. Basketball, Colin White, and, you know, Adonis Abrams, those two stars going head-to-head. They put on a show the other night. Adonis Abrams and Harvest Prep comes out on top. And we'll start with you, Coach. Obviously, Harvest Prep, they played one heck of a game, but we always talk so much about offense, but it's what they did defensively that created fits for Colin and Ottawa Glandorf, and obviously that's probably going to be a main talking point for Harvest Prep here today, their defense and their star player, Adonis Abrams.
Well, you know, and I'm going to pass it over to Mike because I want to hear his thoughts on it. You know, Harvest, they're both very similar in style. They both play very hard, very fast. They're both aggressive. They both like to get downhill. They both can pull up and shoot that jump shot. But the one thing that Harvest Prep doesn't have is a 6'11" man in the middle, and he can make a difference. If I'm Coach Dennis, I want to do everything I can to bring him out of that middle. You know, who's ever guarding, however they're defending, bring him away from the bucket and then attack the bucket. Because as long as he's down there, then you're going to have a problem with anything you try to do down there. What do you think, Mike?
Harvest Prep is going to have to make shots. They're going to have to consistently be able to hit shots from the outside. You look at what Adonis Abrams did on Friday against Ottawa Glandorf. OG really had nobody who could stay in front of him consistently. His quick first step, he was able to beat the OG defenders off the bounce. And also, Harvest Prep turned OG over, got some easy buckets. It's going to be a little harder to turn Lutheran East over. They start two seniors in the backcourt who have played a lot of basketball. They have a freshman point guard who's very poised. But if you're Harvest Prep, a lot of these guys were here last year for a semifinal matchup against Lutheran East. I mean, the biggest story from that game last season was a freshman, Ibrahim Campbell. He was a kid who didn't get a lot of minutes. Without Nael Shahid last year, Campbell came in, played a big role, a surprise role. Now he's a starter. I thought on Friday, Campbell did a lot defensively with his length. He protected the rim, jumped passing lanes, rebounded the ball well. He didn't score it that much on Friday. I think if Harvest Prep is going to win, they need Campbell to play how he did last year against Lutheran East. And this is a new-look Lutheran East team in some ways. Their game against Harvest Prep last year, leading scorer TJ Crumble, who was a freshman, transferred to Richmond Heights, and senior Cody Head was their second leading scorer. So those two guys are both gone. You're going to need guys who were here last year, like Jesse McCullough, Ronald Taylor, Chauncey Brashers, but they weren't the main guys who beat Harvest Prep last year. So those new guys are going to have to step up for the Falcons.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you think, if you're Coach Dennis, and I know I'm the coach here, but Mike, you're very knowledgeable. What do you do? Do you change up anything that you've been doing?
I think Harvest Prep has their style. Like, they want to play a certain way. What they've done a great job throughout this tournament is turning teams over. Their defensive unity, they're hard to score on, whether that's their press, their trapping, or just man-to-man half-court defense. It's hard to score on Harvest Prep. So if you're Harvest Prep, you need to keep Lutheran East in the half-court. Force them to make shots from the outside. If Ronald Taylor and Anthony Bruce hit shots against you, you might just have to tip your cap because you have to send two at Jesse McCullough when he catches it in the paint. He was a Mr. Basketball finalist, one of the best players in the state, committed to Michigan State. I expect Harvest Prep to show double teams when Jesse catches it in the paint. That's probably the only difference you're going to have from a normal Harvest Prep game plan. They're going to do what they want to do, and if they do it well, it's going to be good enough to either win or have a chance to win at the end.
Again, getting you set for Harvest Prep, Lutheran East, our Division III state championship game coming up here. 2 o'clock, the tip-off. We'll be sending it down courtside here shortly to the OHSAA radio network. We've touched on a lot of key components of both teams. We've highlighted a lot of big names, stars on both rosters, of course. But when you narrow it down to the star for each team, the player to watch for each team, we're the player for each team that you're looking at saying has to have a big game. It's easy to go with McCullough. It's easy to go with Adonis Abrams. But who's the star on each team, the player on each team that you're thinking has to have a big game here today?
I think that Brandon Roddy is a key X factor for Harvest Prep. He's the point guard who is key defensively, and he's a kid who impacts the game in a lot of ways without scoring the basketball. He's good defensively, makes the right pass. I think if Roddy's able to get into the defense and kick it out to shooters, that's going to be the key for Harvest Prep. If they're going to score offensively, Roddy breaking the defense down, making plays, and kicking it out to Adonis Abrams and Antoine Pollard. Then on the Lutheran East side, I think new face, freshman Chris Hill, is the key piece. The Falcons start 4 seniors, and also Chris Hill, who's a freshman. He's had some big games this season, a kid who's not afraid of the moment, going to really pressure you defensively, and can score as a slasher. If he has a big game, it's hard for me to see Harvest Prep beating the Falcons if Chris Hill makes an impact on both ends of the court.
Well, I'm going to say the same thing every game. So I think the key players are the whole teams, to me. That's my key players, because I'll let them touch on the key players, and I'll just say the whole team. I could talk about other guys, but I agree with them. Brandon Rowdy, I think Rowdy is the guy that can really make a difference in that for Harvest Prep. But I think the Harvest Prep team is going to be the key players, who's ever on that floor, who's ever playing. I think they all have to contribute. They all have to work together. And the same thing for Lutheran East. If you're on the floor, you got to work together. You got to trust in each other. And I think that's the key players. That's the way I am for
No doubt. Adonis Abrams, by the way, averages 15 a game, had 26, I believe, in that state semifinal against Ottawa Glandorf. What I love about his game, though, we're going to talk about his scoring. He averages 4.5 steals a game. I love that defensive stat. I'm big on that. And then for McCullough, everyone talks about his averaging that double-double, puts up a lot of points, but he averages 4 blocks a game. I'm a big defensive stat guy. Those are very impressive numbers for both of those guys that we talk about their scoring, but defensively, that's what I love about both of them as far as that's concerned.
Now, I will say that Lutheran East is a very good defending team. They play great defense. Can Adonis get it done again the way he did last week against a totally different team the other day? Than he played the other day. Can he do that again, Mike?
Well, a decent amount of Adonis buckets came off of steals. Like, Adonis is the best in the open court. When Harvest Prep gets a steal or Adonis himself gets a steal, he had a couple breakaway dunks. I think there's going to be less freebies for Adonis than he had against Ottawa Glandorf, but he made some tough shots against OG. If he gets those shots, there's no reason to think Adonis can't knock him down, just like he did 2 days ago here at UD Arena. The lights are just as bright in the state title game as they are in the state semifinals. So I expect Adonis to have a good offensive game, but 26, probably a little much to expect him to repeat that performance, but still should be able to hit shots, and he'll probably get a couple transition buckets just because of the pace that Harvest Prep wants to play at. You've seen them. They can score 70, 80 points in a game if it becomes a track meet. I think this one will be a little slower, but they'll still get some buckets in transition.
All right, good stuff. Harvest Prep, Lutheran East, coming up here in just a few moments. Both of you he gave us our players to watch. Coach, what are you looking for as the keys to the game for both teams, especially getting off, coming out of the gates right after tip-off?
I think both teams have to play their game. I think Harvest Prep has to do what they do. They have to get to their spots. They have to take care of the basketball, but they're going to have to rebound. I think Coach Dennis is going to have to make an adjustment today. What adjustment? I don't know, but he's going to have to make an adjustment today to kind of bring Big Boy away from that bucket. And I talked to Coach about that last night at the hotel. I think that's something that you really got to look at. As far as Lutheran East, hey, just do what we do. If I'm Sam, I just say, hey, let's continue to play our game. Let's go hard, let's smack them in the face early, and let's get it done. But I'm sentimental. I'm from Central Ohio, so I'd like to see Harvest Prep get it done.
All right, not bad. Michael, we appreciate your time. Michael Roth giving us some time here in our OHSA tip-off pregame show ahead of our Division III state championship game, which features Lutheran East and Harvest Prep. And that's what we have coming up for you now. That wraps it up for us, Coach. Great job as always, Michael. Thank you. We now send it courtside to our OHSA broadcast crew, again, as they have the call for Division III state championship action.